Talky stream out of nowhere. Normal Talky stream, even. Just some normal ass, talky ass stream going on. Y'all, I haven't done like a normal stream in a while. I've been doing like gaming streams and such. I've been doing whams. And normally I start these off by singing, but I wanted to talk a little bit before I start singing. Although I am still currently pumping out my stream links. I want to keep your attention because just yesterday was released my favorite podcast episode that I've ever been on, which is the Boobcast, the top 10 tits in fiction over on the Golden Butterflies channel. If you're listening to this because you're later on wanting like some kind of podcast or whatever, go listen to that podcast. It is hilarious. It's like 90 minutes long. It was edited by Petra Core, who's on it. It's me, Petra, Krona, aka Gigadonk, Kino, who I'm very soon launching a Toho podcast with, and Yakuman. And did I name all 5 people? I think so. There's 5 of us having a, I'll call it a debate, but I'm hoping to spark more debate in the comments about who is the top 10 tits, who has the top 10 tits in all of fiction. I'm pretty happy with the results we got, but I'm very curious to know how the audience will feel about it. Cow Tools is currently listening to it, taking a boob podcast intermission. I'm enjoying the boob episode, ass episode win. We have talked about doing an ass episode as well. I don't know if as many people are as enthusiastic about it as I am, but an ass episode would go pretty hard. I feel like the playing field will be a lot more open for ass episode because while there was a surprising number of men in the boobs episode, I think there'll be way more in ass. Optimus Prime got robbed and Yoko Littner. Yoko did get kind of robbed. I feel bad about. I should have brought in Hanekawa from the Monogatari series. I didn't want to because I don't know that Monogatari goes long enough that the characters like actually age into adulthood, and I really was trying to only pick adult characters. Although I picked Girl Ranma, who's, I don't know, like maybe at the very end of the show an adult, but nonetheless, I saw a picture of Hanekawa on Blue Sky that made me go, God damn, I probably should have put her in there. Yoko does get talked about. She just doesn't make the 10. But we did not talk about Monogatari at all. And then somebody reminded me of Shinobu having nice tits when she's in her grown form, and I was like, I totally forgot about that, but that would have been a good choice too. Anyways, yeah, the great boob debate, the top 10 tits in fiction, highly recommend listening to that podcast. And aside from that, I've also been doing live streams with Gigadonk over on the Slime Dolls channel, where she's been playing through Twilight Princess, now with the Dusk recompile that makes it a native PC game. It makes it so you could skip cutscenes and stuff. Not that we're doing that in this playthrough, but, it's pretty... it's the only thing that was going to make me consider trying that game again. Because I've tried to play through it a bunch of times, and I'm so sick of the opening segment of the game. But apparently it's like literally a third of the time investment to do that with the skipping cutscenes. So, we've been doing that over there, and then I posted a video on Nova Loves Music, a music channel that only has 3 videos so far. The first 2 came out like 6 months apart and were incredibly long. The newest one is about the new JPEG Mafia album, and how it's not that experimental, and whether or not the phrase experimental rap should be used to mean albums that are very experimental or just like a genre of albums that sound like JPEG Mafia. And I just got done watching Professor Sky's video about that album, and it made me kind of want to do another video, not as much about JPEG Mafia specifically or even experimental rap, but about personality in music. I might touch on that in this live stream. If I give a good enough rant on this stream, I'll just fucking clip it and put it over there on that channel. Bird and I also finished the Winter 2026 anime season analysis, or review, I should say. It wasn't really that analytical, but we once a month had done videos covering all the shows from Winter 2026. We were super late on the last one, but it's out now. And for the current season of anime, if you didn't know about Whams, the weekly anime, manga, music, beer, and snacks show that is hosted by Bird and my brother Shade over on Shade's channel, Shaidu. You should go over there. We record every Sunday at 8, so today is a Whams day at 8 p.m. Because that's the only time that the two of them are guaranteed available every week. And as the title suggests, we review anime, manga, music, beer, and snacks. And so every week we're covering current season anime. Pretty much the only segment that I usually don't contribute as much to is the manga segment, and even then sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't read the manga because they cover 30 chapters and I just forget to read it. But I've basically been third chair on this show, particularly for the music, beer, and snacks segments. And typically the beer we review is the one that we are drinking throughout the podcast, and we're all pretty drunk by the time we get to the beer and snacks segment, especially the snack segment. So it's kind of like it starts off as a very organized review show about anime and manga, and then it just like slowly devolves into drunken madness as you go through the segments. Cowtool said, enjoyed the Whams Iceman review. That was really fun. That was a really fun one. That was one of my favorite Wham segments for sure. Because we all just went in on Drake. I got a lot off my chest. That was one of the ones I was the most active for. Like this past week, I was very active on Whams because we were talking about Drake. And it got me, I poured out all of the anger about Drake I've had for years on there. Because I've never really made a Drake video, so that was the first time I got to like get off everything about Drake, and hopefully I'll never have to talk about him again. So yeah, we do Whams every week. The segments get released as their own videos over the course of the following week, so if you missed the stream or you don't want to listen to a whole podcast of 5 very disparate topics, you can just select the videos you want to watch. And apart from all of that, I'm always putting out content on different channels. I've basically resolved that I'm going to just make it even crazier going forward. Sometimes I get into a headspace of like, I need to make it make sense. And then the harder I try to make it make sense, the less sense it makes. The album this time is going to be Thriller, Thriller Night. Because of the fact that Drake wore Michael Jackson's glove on the cover of Iceman, I was like, fuck Drake, let's cover fucking Michael Jackson. Let's cover Thriller, the best-selling album of all time. So tonight we're going to be talking about episodes 4 through 6 of, I keep wanting to fucking call it Little Witch Academia. Witch Hat Atelier. They're going to cover the first 30 chapters of JoJo Lands. That's the new one. JoJo Lands. They're going to cover the first 30 chapter of JoJo Lands, the latest JoJo's Bizarre Adventure part. And then, Thriller by Michael Jackson. These beers from Highwire. I just went and picked this up. And a Reese's Reese's with Oreo in it. Like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, but it's got Oreo mixed in. Anyway, I just picked up the beer and snacks at the store. Off the Wall is better. Do that one later. Maybe we will. I figured we got to do Thriller first because it's the one, and I don't know that any of us has actually listened to an entire front-to-back Michael Jackson album before. Like, we all know the singles. We all know he's great. None of us have ever, I did not live in a Michael Jackson type of a household. I lived in a Green Day and Sublime kind of a household growing up. So, the Oreo Reese's are really good. I had a couple of them just now, and you'll hear my opinions on the show, but I will not confirm or deny that they are really good. Have I ever found a 4-leaf clover? I mean, maybe. I'm not sure. Can y'all hear that dryer? Let me know if you can. Someone just came in and started the dryer back up, and I'm like, I'm live. I will turn that back off. If it's audible. In any case, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. It's mostly linked in my link tree. Most of my my friends, you do hear a hum? Yeah, all right. That's got to wait. I don't know why they thought that would be a good idea, but everyone's always doing laundry all the time. My room is a laundry room, and I can't say I'm a huge fan of this fact because everyone's always doing the laundry here. I don't know how there is so much laundry. Personally, I try to keep my laundry use to a minimum so that I don't have to do the laundry all the time. Anyway. Yeah, so that's all the promotional stuff I wanted to get out, pretty much. I made a Guilty Gear video on this channel that hopefully you've seen already about analyzing the lyrics of Guilty Gear songs. But over on the Trixie Takes the Square channel, actually I didn't mention this yet. So Trixie Takes the Square is my vlogging channel. You know, it's the revived Digibro After Dark channel. But now it's Trixie Takes the Square. And basically for like February through April, I was putting out like theme vlogs pretty regularly, and I was doing it like at a very inconsistent rate. It was just basically have an idea, make video, publish, and I was like really tasking myself for a time to try to have something new coming out like almost every day on one channel or the other, just like constantly doing little things here and there. And then at some point I got kind of out of ideas and burned out, and I was like, all right, let me take a step back. I feel like I have a good sense of the kind of stuff I'm doing, but let's make it more organized, you know? So now it's every Monday at 8 a.m. I've got a video coming out, and I'm breaking that channel into seasons. So we had season 1 with 12 episodes earlier this year. Now we're on season 2. I have already recorded, edited, and uploaded 8 episodes of season 2. But it's going to be 2 months for all of those to come out. But the latest one I did, the latest one I recorded, part of it is about being an experimental YouTuber and how, like, at the core, I'm not an analysis YouTuber. I'm not really a vlogger. I'm not really a streamer. More than anything else, I am an experimental YouTuber. I just do things because I think they'd be interesting and not because there is like a precedent for it or that I've done it before or anything like that. And the more I try to do things on the basis of like that I've done this before, the harder it is. Like the more I try to make it, oh, this one has to reflect something I already did. I can't ever find that many ideas that work in formula with one another like that. And I feel like the closest I got was when I was doing Anime Alphabet, where it was like, okay, there's a limited number of classic anime that everyone knows that I can do in-depth deep dives on, and I can do it once a month, and they'll all be between like 30 minutes and an hour, and it'll be a consistent show. But like, YouTube hates anime footage. It hates doing that kind of stuff, and so it just got too hard to keep the videos up, and I was like, I can't mentally, emotionally, I cannot deal with the copyright stuff. Like, I have been hurt too many times by copyright to keep doing that. So, you know, in the aftermath of that, I've spent like years trying to figure out what's another formula, because YouTube loves formula. It loves channels that do one thing and they do it, you know, over and over again, and you know exactly what to expect. But I don't love formula. I don't love doing things formulaically. I don't have that kind of singular voice that makes sense to always do. I just get ideas, and then I'm like, ooh, that's a fun idea. I want to do that, and then I do it. And so, like, in order to make it work on YouTube, I think the thing that makes the most sense to me at this point is just to literally have a million channels. Like, keep Trixie Takes the Square consistent in as much as there is every Monday at 8 a.m. there's a video that's a vlog of a certain length, and the only time that channel will get posted to is if I have an idea like that. If I finish the season and I don't have another idea like that for a while, the channel just goes on postponement. Trixie Takes the Square. It's got to be an edited analysis video about nerd culture. If I don't have an idea for that for a while, there's just not going to be anything on the channel for a while, and whatever idea I do have, I just have to find a place for it, because it doesn't all belong in the same place. That's how you kill a channel. It's how you make it completely unusable, basically. I really relate to this mindset. I always chalked it up to my ADHD. Yeah, I mean, ADHD is a big part of it. I'm ADHD as fuck. I'm dissociative as fuck. And I will, like, the other day I got sick. I got sick through, like, the mid part of the week. It was, like, 2 days of it being, like, there was one night where I had, like, a real bad migraine, and that was, like, the worst of it. And I felt like a part of my ego died. Like, I felt as though, like, the me before having that migraine and the me after that migraine were slightly different people. Not totally different people, just slightly different people. And so, like, it felt like a break between here's what I have been and here's what I am now, and I have to kind of, there's certain things that have to be consistent between those two things, but some stuff just kind of falls away. And that happens to me pretty regularly. Like, if I go on a trip, let's say, like, I take a 3-day trip out of town or something, I'm going to come back and not really feel like I'm the same person I was before that trip. And that can make it really hard to pick up and do the same thing I had been doing before that. Even if the new thing I do is pretty similar, It's just like, when I'm working on something, I get hyperfixated on that thing, and then once that hyperfixation breaks, it's like that has nothing to do with me anymore, in a way. So, let me talk about some of what I've been up to. And y'all can tell me some of what you've been up to, I guess. I've been live a lot this month, even though I haven't been doing like this. I haven't been doing these talky streams. I've been playing Disco Elysium, which is very interesting. It's a fun game. It's cool. I'll be picking it back up on Tuesday. I skipped this Friday. Normally I stream on Friday, but I had an HVAC person come and fix the AC in our room, and I was still, like, a little bit sick, so I was just like, skip today. I've been doing this too fucking much. My brain is starting to implode. Disco Elysium it's similar to Umineko when I was streaming that game, in that both of them are so about, like, mental illness that they get into your head in a way that makes you feel like you're transforming. Like, the experience itself is transformative, but it's hard to figure out what it's transforming. You just feel like your brain is changing shape a little bit. And so it's a trippy experience, And it's very memorable. Like, not even necessarily every individual interaction, but, like, just I can see the map of the game in my head, and I can feel myself internalizing certain things where, like, it's not like it's shown up in my dreams, but it's more of a feeling of, like, after I've had a dream-filled sleep, I feel like I have an even stronger presence of what I experienced in my head, if that makes sense. Similarly for the other games I've been playing, which is mostly Danmaku games, mostly bullet hell, I historically I was introduced to the bullet hell genre by Toho, and because of the fact that I never got very good at Toho, I had kind of decided, like, well, these games are just too fucking hard, and I'm not very good at video games. Like, historically, I have never considered myself to be very good, even though I might be better, probably better than average when I really look at, like, an average gamer, but nowhere near on the level of people who really game. People who are really skilled, people who practice at being skilled, people who are like making an effort to be good at video games, or even just people who game all the time and incidentally have gotten good. Like, I don't game all the time, so I've never gotten particularly good, even though a lot of the games I like are high skill ceiling games, games that you could be good at. So like, I've avoided to an extent trying to even play some of these higher tier games because for a long time, it's been, for really like more than a decade, it's been hard for me to get myself to do stuff that I'm not going to talk about. Like if I'm not going to do a live stream of it or I'm not going to make a video about it, it can be really hard for me to convince myself to do something. And so more and more over the years, I've been trying to like almost force myself to have things I do just for fun, like not with the intent of this is towards an ends of anything. It's just a fun thing to do. And it's been weirdly difficult for me to actually find video games that I do just find fun. Like, there's not a lot of games that the passive experience of just like, all right, let's pick it up again today and play more of it. Like, most of the games I actually finish are games you can do in a couple of days and then just be done with them, It's rare that there's something that's more of a lifestyle game or anything like that. I was really enjoying Arc Raiders like towards the start of this year, but I mostly was enjoying playing it with Bird, and he got too anxious about it. Like, for him, like getting killed and losing your powerful weapons is so infuriating to him that it like traumatized him out of the game. Like, he just doesn't even ever want to play it. So I haven't even played the last few updates yet, just because I have not been able to get Bird to play with me. Playing alone is fine, I guess, but I'm not good at like compelling myself to keep playing a game that's very involved like that. It's easy for me to do a game where you can just pick up and play for literally 5 minutes and then put it back down. That is way easier for me. Which bullet hell games are closer to that because like the game at most is 30 minutes long. Like, if you actually succeed a whole run, it's a 30-minute game. If you don't succeed at the run, it could be anywhere from 5, 20, 25 minutes. Like, so it's very much like you can just do a run, fail, and then put it down, and then go do something else, and maybe pick it up again later. But the games are like super ADHD because there's just so much going on, and the best ones have like a really strong aesthetic, really strong music, so it's like a cool experience that you can have over and over and over again. And again, at most it's going to take you 30 minutes. So like, in spite of the fact that I never got good at Touhou, every few years I catch like a Touhou bug and I just become obsessed with it again. This happened back in 2021, and that was the first time that I went like, what if I played some other bullet hell games? What if I didn't just try Touhou? What if I also tried Dodonpachi? Because that was the one I'd always heard of as like the mythical, legendary bullet hell game. Like, oh, Touhou is fine, but Dodonpachi, that's the real deal, is what I had always heard, And so I had installed MAME, the arcade emulator, and got Dodonpachi 1. Not because there's Donpachi, then Dodonpachi, then there's like 3 sequels to Dodonpachi. So on MAME I was playing Dodonpachi, and then on my phone I got Dodonpachi Daiojo, or Blissful Death as it's known in English. And I got mad addicted to both of them, but couldn't beat them. I played them both for like a solid 3 weeks, maybe a month, back in like the end of 2021. Couldn't beat them, but thought they were really cool and interesting. And then I also bought like Dreamer and Cosmo Dreamer on the Switch, and and I played like Tengai on my phone, and like I think that was all the bullet hell games I got into back then. But then I ended up once again going into like heavy content generation mode and just kind of putting down video games and just worrying about making stuff for a while. and kind of forgot about this little, excursion I had. But I also had it in my head that, like, if there was one video game genre I would want to become an expert in, it's cute 'em ups specifically. Not shmups in general, not bullet hell in general, but just the ones with cute girls in them. And I was like, if I could just learn all the cute 'em ups, that could be my specialty, and I could be the cute 'em up person. It's just a matter of the games are all fucking hard, Yes, Z-Fight Cypher, that's where I got the idea for the cute 'em ups panel. I was like, if I could be just into, which, like, I don't even think Dodonpachi is necessarily a cute 'em up, because what I've come to realize now is that definition is somewhat nuanced, because I thought of Touhou as a cute 'em up because it's full of cute girls, and, like, even the enemies are kind of cute. But, like, when you say cute 'em up, you're usually meaning, like, Parodius or Twinbee, or, like, these games where the whole aesthetic cotton, the whole game is cute. And then there's, like, Dodonpachi, where, yeah, the player characters are cute girls, but it's mostly a space shooter. Like, you don't really see the girls when you're playing the game. You mostly see a bunch of mechs and, these, like, sci-fi scapes and stuff. So I wouldn't really call Dodonpachi a cute 'em up. But at the same time, it is very informative of the genre, And so, like, and I think of shmups that aren't cute 'em ups as, like, all the space shooters that are just, like, a spaceship and a bunch of space sci-fi imagery. But, like, there's a middle ground, is what I'm trying to say. There's a spectrum between just pure spaceship combat and cute girls in spaceships, and then, just cute girls flying around. And it's hard to really draw a line of what is or isn't a cute 'em up. There's no, like, official guide to this, like, there is a pretty diehard community around shmups, but there is not, like, a subdivision of cute 'em up fandom, particularly because the most popular shmups are Dodonpachi, which, like I said, is right in the middle. But, so this year I found myself catching the Touhou bug again and going back into the shmups, but this time I became determined. I'm going to get as good as I can at these games. Like, I'm not going to worry about the fact that they're hard. I'm just going to keep trying, keep doing it, and see how far I can get. And I have gotten better. Not good enough to beat a Touhou game on normal difficulty, other than 9, because 9 plays differently and is, in my opinion, easier. Some people probably don't find it easier, but I do. But I would say that Touhou 9 I could clear on normal, not 1cc, but Touhou gives you a limited number of continues. So to me, if you can beat a Touhou game with continues, it's a little bit different than, say, like, I recently bought Mushihime-sama, which is maybe the most popular cave game in the United States. The same people who made Dodonpachi, but it's bug-themed. And so you play as, like, a cute girl shooting at giant bug monsters. And it's funny because it kind of gives Nazca vibes, except that it's spiritually the opposite of Nazca, because you're fighting bugs instead of protecting bugs. But Mushihime-sama on Steam, it gives you infinite continues. Like, you can just keep trying. And, like, you will get to a point, if you're not good, where you're dying constantly and using continues, and that's when you just go, okay, I need to stop. Like, I'm not good enough to try this, But, like, but something like Touhou, where you only get 4 continues in the first place, I feel like it's fair to keep trying to get a little bit further. But generally, in the shmup community, what you are looking for is the 1 continue clear. You're trying to get good enough at the game to clear it with no continues, and that is, like, the true victory. And, like, the Dodonpachi games are really hard, and they also, a lot of them have 2 loops, where it's like you beat it once, and then there's a second harder version, kind of like Ghosts and Goblins. But the original arcade releases were just hard as balls, but when they port them to consoles or phones or whatever, they usually create lower difficulty modes. So on Dodonpachi Daiojo on my phone, I was able to 1 continue clear normal mode loop 1 on my phone, and that felt like a massive accomplishment, because I'd been I've been stuck on it for like 3 years at this point. Not that I've been playing it consistently, but you know, I had assumed it was 6 stages and it was only 5, so like I hadn't realized I was stuck on the last stage for a long time. And then when I finally beat it, I was like, no fucking way! I beat Dodonpachi Daiojo on my phone. But now I'm trying to beat hard mode, and I can make it like towards the end of stage 4. I just have been like using practice mode to play stage 4 over and over again to try to, lessen the difficulty of it. But I really like playing shmups on my phone because you can just move your finger around and the ship goes where your finger says. But there's not a lot of them on iPhone, so I've mostly been playing Dodonpachi Daiojo, but there is a series of free games called Bullet Hell Monday. And Bullet Hell Monday is almost like a training program for shmups. Like, it starts you off as easy as possible. It has very in-depth tutorializing. And then it's got like a mission mode where each mission is less than a minute long. But there's a bunch of like sub-goals within that mission. And so you want to play it over and over again to meet all those sub goals. And like there are certain levels that when you first get there, it's like, I'm not good enough, like there's no way. And then 20 minutes of trying later, you've cleared it and you're like, fuck, I can't believe I got so much better at this game. So there's original Bullet Hell Monday, which I have almost 100%ed all the missions. I think on the last, there's like 5 chapters. On chapter 5 I'm at like 65% clear or something like that, because there's a few missions that are just hard as fucking balls. And then each game also has a challenge mode where you have to do like 5 levels back to back in more of a traditional shmup kind of way, and an endless mode, which is just see how long you can survive on 1 health, basically. So Bullet Hell Monday original, I had a ton of fun. I got really obsessed with it for like a week and a half. That was like every time I sat down, I was pulling out my phone and playing Bullet Hell Monday. And then there's Bullet Hell Monday Black and Finale. And Black, you have to actually purchase all the levels past level 1, and I haven't done that because I'm cheap as fuck. And then Bullet Hell Monday Finale adds like a bunch. It's very similar to the original, but it adds a bunch of new mechanics. And most of those new mechanics I did not find that made the game more fun for me. Like, it made it more complicated. And there are certain challenges where it's like you have to use all these other mechanics, but it feels like you have to level up a lot before you're really going to be able to accomplish that stuff, because the game has like a leveling system, and you can kind of just purchase power. And it kind of feels like the game is trying to coerce me into purchasing power, because it does not feel like on raw skill I could get through every thing without playing for like a really long time to grind to level up. So Bullet Hell Monday Finale kind of pissed me off on the final chapter enough to finally stop playing it. But that was like a whole week and a half of my life this month was just like nonstop Bullet Hell Monday. And then I finally reinstalled MAME because I'm using a new laptop, or Bird's old laptop, and played just sampled a bunch of shmups, So, like I said, also I purchased Mushihime-sama. I finally played Death Smiles. Death Smiles is fucking awesome. It's another cave game where you play as like little goth lollies and fucking fly around and fight like vampires and shit. I had always heard that it was really hard, so I'd always been afraid of it, but actually playing it, it was fun as fuck. Because it's a horizontal shooter, but you change direction. Like, you can flip between firing to the right and firing to the left, because enemies will come from both sides. It's really cool. And then I also found the shmup community. And that has also been an interesting thing, where there's a channel called Samsonite STG, who has a podcast called the No Miss Podcast. And I had subscribed to this channel simply because, right after I bought Mushihime-sama, YouTube pushed me a video from this channel playing Mushihime-sama that had come out, that day. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll check this out. And this guy basically just will, play through a game and talk over it, kind of explaining the playthrough. But this podcast he did, the third episode, each episode he interviews another person from the community, and he was interviewing a guy called Pan, and Pan has a channel that is instructional guides on how to continue clear various shmup games, and he's got a bunch of them. And his mentality about it is basically like, all you really need to do is learn the route. It's not really about dodging bullets or like being hyper concentrated. It's like there's always kind of a trick to it. There's always like a specific spot you can be where you're not likely to get hit, and if you're watching enough people do it right, then you'll figure it out. And you just got to keep practicing your route rather than just trying to be so skilled you can dodge every bullet. And also on this podcast, they're very realistic about the difficulty of these games, because there are certain shmup fans that I have encountered all throughout being a Toho fan who basically act like you're a fucking scrub if you cannot 1cc these games. And I've always been like, there's just no way that like so many people are actually able to do this. It's hard as fuck to even just complete them, even on normal difficulty. And I know there are people who are at the level of 1cc insane mode, but like, there used to be just kind of this attitude of like, well, if you haven't even done a 1cc, then how can you even be talking about these games? And these guys are like, all of that's ridiculous. Like, they basically just are saying, hey, look, we're pretty decent at these games, but every time I get into one, it's like a month-long process to clear this thing. This is like a real time dedication. This is a real like, a real journey. And when people kind of mock someone who's at the start of that journey, you're just basically discouraging them from taking it, as opposed to just admitting that it's fucking hard. Admit that it's, a commitment, and that you might not ever clear certain games, and that's fine. You can enjoy it without clearing it. You don't have to, you don't have to feel down about the fact that you couldn't beat the game if you enjoyed the game. And so it was really refreshing to hear people say that, stuff that like seems obvious and rational, but you're always like, well, is that really what other people in the community think? So the No Miss podcast is really good for mindset advice and like just kind of making it seem more inviting to play these games and talk about them, and admit like what level you're at, So yeah, I've been playing a lot of shmups, watching videos about shmups. I think that's the end of me ranting about shmups. I didn't expect to say quite so much of it, because I totally skipped over the super chat from Gary Always for $2, where he asked, did you check out the Game Over's pilot? I did not. Doesn't really seem... I think we watched the trailer on stream like a few months ago. Somebody paid me to watch the trailer, and I didn't like the trailer. So I figured probably not going to like the show. I won't be surprised if I end up getting paid to watch it anyways at some point. But, for now, I just was like, I'll pass on that. I still haven't watched the last episode of Amazing Digital Circus, the most recent one, because I'm not very invested in the glitch shows. I get paid to watch all of them somehow, but I've never gotten particularly invested in them on a like a fan level, Yeah, Prita said, games are much harder when you are not a kid or super involved. Honestly, games were way harder for me as a kid, though. Like, being super involved, yes. You do need to get pretty involved to make it easy for yourself. But I sucked at video games as a kid. And really, it's just a matter of, like I've said, I'm a very dissociative person. And, like, it's in recent years I've become less so. Like, I've trained myself to concentrate. Especially in the last 5 or 6 years. Like, I've really been practicing at concentration. But like a big part of, the stuff I used to talk about as an anime fan is like how quickly I drop shows. And it's not because like the kind of excuse I made is like, well, it's a waste of time, right? Like I only have so much time that I'm going to be alive, and I have to see all the good stuff, so I can't waste my time on the bad stuff. But that was really kind of just an excuse for the fact that like I just dissociate really easily. If I'm watching something and it can't hold my attention, I stop paying attention, and my mind will go somewhere else. So, like, generally something has to be really appealing to me to keep me in and keep me, You're What It Do, Baby. I just rewatched Redline. I missed the hype of 2000s anime. You know, I know what you mean. I don't necessarily. Redline for me has been like it's a movie that I like respect more than I enjoy, if that makes sense. Um, but it's definitely one where like through certain parts it holds your attention really well, and then there's other parts where it's kind of boring. But um, yeah, like when it comes to anime, it's like if there's always something happening visually and the story is interesting to me, then it's easier to pay attention. But as soon as something lapses, then I'm just like, all right, I don't, like I'm thinking about something else. And similarly with video games, where it's like if it takes too much like thought, I guess, then I'm going to end up thinking too much and not paying attention to it. Alf Rules with 100 ARS says, "What do you do if you feel like you're living on borrowed time? It feels like it seems the clock is ticking faster and the hour they knock slick bastard is approaching." Man, I don't know how to help with that. I don't feel that way. I feel like every day is long as fuck. It's funny because like the days like if I think about like the month of May, it feels like it's charged by, but each individual day feels long to me when it's happening. I think again because of like the fact that I tend to like do something and then I kind of mentally check out for a little bit, and then I do something else and then I mentally check out for a little bit, and so it feels like if I do 6 things in a day, that day feels incredibly long, but like I'm thinking about today and I'm like, okay, it's 3:00. I woke up at like 11 and I know I have, I went to Wegmans and got beer and snacks. I edited the Wham snack review from last week and got it out. And I watched like a 45-minute Professor Sky video about JPEG Mafia. Some of that I watched in the car and while setting up the stream, and now I'm streaming. So it's like today already feels like a very full day, even though I've only been up for like 4 hours. I didn't understand the MF Doom reference. No, I'm not that big of a MF Doom listener, despite how many times I've referenced MF Doom in my lyrics. He's very influential on me, but mostly for features, not as much from like listening to his music. All respect to Doom, but I'm not the biggest MF Doom listener. Bandit Flips, I'm like that with novels. I find it hard to get invested in them. I haven't read a book in like such a long time. I legit don't remember what was the last book I read. Like, I remember that time that I read a Hunter Thompson book and made a whole video called, like, I read a book, do I get a trophy? And I can't remember reading a book since then. Like, cover to cover. I'm sure I've sampled some books or read bits and pieces of books. I might have reread some light novels, but I can't remember the last time I finished a book. I'm vastly better at video games now than ever in my life. Yeah, so, like, when I was a kid, I mean, for one thing, I didn't get into video games as early as, like, I think I got into them a little earlier than a lot of people my age, but not as early as kids get into them now, because I was, like, 6, 7 when I first found out about video games, and it was, like, the only ones that interested me were like cute games, and like I wasn't good enough at Diddy Kong Racing to beat it as a kid. I know I beat Pokemon, but Pokemon's the easiest fucking game in the world. I played a lot. Well, I also played a lot of multiplayer games with my little brothers, and so like in general, I was better than they are at these games because I was a little older. But like none of us was competing, to be really good at these games, and yeah, I can't think of like any games that I actually beat as a kid like that until like the Game Boy Advance, playing like Metroid Fusion, which was kind of hard. I think I took 2 tries to get through that. And like the Minish Cap, you know, like games that are like 5 hours long and not that hard are the only ones I remember beating as a teen. I did beat Golden Sun, and that took all week, and that was a big deal to me. But that's like the only thing I remember being determined enough to actually beat. I played a ton of RPGs in my mid-teens, and I finished like none of them. Even the ones where I made it to the final boss, I usually was underpowered and just could not beat the final boss. Like Shadow Heart's Covenant. Have you critiqued Kant? No, I have not read Kant. Did you listen to Pokemon Cypher 2024? CTC got a rap. Mo. I have not. I have the Pokemon Cyphers I have heard were all like fine, but none of them ever stuck with me. At this point, I'm not gonna get half the references. Like, I haven't played the last few Pokemon games, so I'm probably gonna be lost about what the fuck they're talking about if I were to listen to a Pokemon Cypher today. Have I beaten Persona 3 FES? No. And that was a case where I've never actually played FES. I have played original. I have Persona 3 with the art book and CD. I bought it when it came out. I got like 7 hours in, and I legitimately thought it was the greatest game I had ever played, and I did not get any further into it. I think partly I was scared that I wouldn't, like, I used to really be scared of, like, if I think I like something but I'm worried it might turn or I might, like, lose favor with it, then I would kind of be afraid to continue. That was how I kind of felt about Persona 3, where I remember, like hitting a few moments that I didn't appreciate as much and then just kind of being like, I need to stop before I stop loving this as much as I think I love it or something like that. But later on, I watched my ex play through probably FES, not all the way. She played like 20 hours of it, and I remember that she was like too good at it for me to like. The feeling I got watching her play that game is, oh, this is a game for teenagers. Like, this is a baby game, you know? Like, the characters are teenagers, the battle system is, like, very simplified, and you can get, like, really overpowered and really just kind of make the game feel like a cakewalk, at least at the point that she was at. And it made me feel like, oh, you should be playing mainline Shin Megami Tensei. Like, if you're an adult who's actually good at video games, you should play the hard ones, you know, the ones that are actually a challenge. And so the last time I tried to play a Shin Megami Tensei, it was Digital Devil Saga, and I did have that feeling of like, okay, this is more aimed at me, you know, this is for an adult who's really gonna have to work for it, you know, and the characters aren't fucking teenagers and stuff. And I got like 20 hours into that, and then, as tends to happen with me, I started getting worried about work and that I needed to make more videos and that I wasn't going to finish this game in a timely fashion or, you know, be able to formulate thoughts on it quickly enough to make a new video, so I just stopped. But that was a pretty fun game. I remember having a good time from what I played of it. $2 from user 225 CCC says Lily Orchard would force feed rare candies to Ralts. I mean, that's so unnecessary. Pokemon is so easy. When I was a kid, I literally beat the whole game with Venusaur. Like, my first time through Pokemon Red, I didn't understand how to catch the Pokemon. Like, the mechanics of get it weak enough to throw a Pokeball at it, but not enough to kill it, was too intimidating to me. Because I didn't understand, like, well, how weak does it have to be? Like, the game's not very specific about exactly how, you know, like, what to target. And so I just destroyed everything in the game with my starter. And then I remember, like, really late in, finally starting to I think somebody, probably one of my kids in my neighborhood, told me about how to catch Pokemon. And then I know I caught a Doduo, and I got an Ammonite because you get it from the fossil. So the only Pokemon I remember actually catching in the game was a Doduo, and I got the Ammonite from the fossil. And so eventually I was running the Elite Four over and over again with just Venusaur, Dodrio, and Amistar. And I was trying to get them all to max level, and I got my Venusaur to level 98, and then I ruined my save trying to use a Game Shark on it. I was very upset. I really want to own Golden Sun. I gotta check if any of the stores near me have it. I believe I own a copy somewhere. I don't know where my Game Boy Advance games are, though. Concerningly. But I definitely own Golden Sun. I want to play more SMT games, but they feel like such a commitment to me. I mean, it's as much as any other RPG. Every RPG is too much. They're all fucking... This is why I play shmups, where the game is 30 minutes long at the longest, and you probably won't even last that long. Yeah, the RPGs, I mean, some of them are shorter. I'm also playing, I'm going to talk about this with Krona next time we podcast, so I'm not going to get too into it, but I have been playing Dragon Quest II, the Super Nintendo version, on my phone, and that's pretty alright. It's interesting. But yeah, I every couple of years, I'm like, I really feel like I should play some big, long JRPG, but then just the fucking time commitment is so intimidating. I think I have listened to J Dilla Donuts, yes, but I don't really remember any specifics of it. I gotta pee. I'll be right back. I decided to start that dryer back up now that I'm been talking enough that it's not horribly distracting to me. My brain was not ready for it before, for background noise. Even when an RPG is a masterpiece, there's still a lot of melancholy that comes with dedicating so many hours to greatness you likely only get to enjoy alone. True. I mean, you get to talk about it with other people, so there is that aspect. Like, if I were to play Persona 3, I know a ton of Persona 3 fans. On the other hand, if I were to play Digital Devil Saga, I don't know anybody who's played it, you know. I mean, somebody in here mentioned it, so I guess I could talk to you about it, but yeah, like there's definitely a feeling of who am I going to be able to share this with? When I played Pokemon as a kid, I got to the end with only the starter. I could beat the game because I didn't have enough PPs. True. I think that's probably a part of why I was bringing Amistar and Dodrio in. Yeah, Z-Cypher said, to complete any RPG, you just got to pick one and keep playing until you finish. That's the thing. It's a matter of continuing day after day. Like, my attention span for a video game is, like, a few days long, unless it's more of, like, it's really just that I like to do a variety of things in my day. You know, like, I like to make videos. I like to talk to people on Discord. I like to... I haven't really been going outside much in the last couple weeks, but I like to go outside sometimes, you know. I watch a ton of YouTube videos, like, so I'm always kind of bouncing between different things, And like, again, with something like Bullet Hell Monday, like the stages are a minute long, so I could pick it up, play literally 2 stages, and then go do something else. Or if I really get into it, I could play it for 2 hours and then go do something else. But like, it never feels like I'm committed to it, you know? With a JRPG, it's like, I usually get to... Another part of it is that the way these games are paced usually isn't amazing. I would say the Final Fantasy games, this is what makes them so good, like so accessible, is that they have better pacing than most other RPGs, because they try to make sure that like at every step of the way something new is happening in the story. With Digital Devil Saga, for instance, and this is a problem I've had with pretty much every Atlas game I've played, where like they're very front loaded with intrigue, and then as it goes along, it just kind of starts repeating itself while the levels get longer. So like Persona 2, which I actually did get to the final boss in that, like the first half of the game is all this cool shit where it's like establishing the characters, and you've got these sort of episodic plots that are all really interesting. And then like halfway in, you find out who the villain is, and pretty much all of the dialogue in the game just becomes, yep, we sure do got to beat that villain. Yeah, we got to save the world. We got to beat that guy, you know? And, like, the dungeons just keep getting longer and more laborious. And it's like, why do I feel like I'm getting rewarded less for doing more effort, you know? Like, in the beginning, it was just a, like, quick little jump through a dungeon, and then a bunch of cool story stuff happens. And then, just as it went, it felt worse and worse. And, like... Digital Devil Saga was like in the middle of the game. There's just very much a lull in like the characters developing or the story moving at all. And again, the dungeons are getting longer and harder. So like, and with that game, I enjoyed the gameplay enough that I didn't feel like, okay, well, you know, now I'm sick of it. But I wanted there to be more compelling, you know, reason to continue the story, basically. Final Fantasy X is even that game. I feel like the funny part is that game like opens up about 25 hours in, and I don't think it gets better by opening up. Like, it was a fun, like almost movie game for the first half, and then the second half it has like this open world segment, but like the open world battles feel repetitive as fuck and are like nowhere near as interesting as the scripted stuff from earlier. And that game, thankfully, still has lots of cool shit in the later half, but the open world parts were the least interesting parts of that game, in my opinion. What Posta said, I feel my mind drifting towards that more bite-sized content too, but I'm intentionally putting up a firm resistance to not lose the sort of long as fuck, sometimes meandering art I'd stick through when young. See, I didn't do that when I was young. I never stuck through fucking shit. So my ability to do that is new, actually. Like, I'm getting better at sticking through a long thing. I mean, like I said, in my teens, there were a few RPGs that I, like, made it to the end. But I would literally just play it for 3 straight days, and that would be all I would do. You know, is just play that game for 3 days. And then most of the time I never beat it. Because I was kind of trying to rush through it because I could feel myself losing interest. And so I would try to just like bulldoze to the end, but usually those games kind of require you to do more, you know, like they want you to fully explore the world before you're done. And so if you don't, you kind of fuck yourself. Have I played any games from the Tales of series? Yes. Actually, when I was a teenager, my favorite game was Tales of Symphonia. That is the only one that I beat and went like halfway through again right afterwards. Because I was obsessed with Tales of Symphonia when I was like 14, 15. Wrote a bunch of fanfics for it and stuff. I have also beat Tales of Fantasia, the PS1 version, and I made a video about it, which is probably still up somewhere. I actually might have unlisted it. Let me find out. Does that still exist somewhere? Yes, it's called Tales of Fantasia. It's still up on the I Am Games channel 7 years ago. Um, I thought this channel had its name changed, but I guess it is still just called I Am Games. I thought I remembered Tom changing the name when he took over. But, yeah. I made a long-form analysis of Tales of Fantasia, and I was planning to do more games in the series, but it hadn't really performed that well. Funnily enough, it has 44,000 views now, so I guess it's gained a lot of views over time, because I remember it only having like less than 10K back then. I hadn't really checked in on that in a while, but yeah, that's I think I've only played Fantasia and Symphonia, but I beat them both. Yeah, I'm not into open world games at all. I'm not good at making my own fun in a video game. I tend to just take the path of least resistance. But like when I'm playing an open world game, my instinct is just climb the tallest thing I see so that I can see as much of the world as possible. So like in Breath of the Wild, for instance, all I remember of that game in retrospect is climbing mountains. Just climbing every mountain I could see, usually way before. Like, I remember when I got farther into the game and you get strong enough to kind of trivialize climbing mountains, that I kind of felt like, well, I've wasted most of my time in this game, like, climbing mountains I wasn't really ready to, but finding a way, you know? I don't know. It felt silly afterwards, but what was the last open world game I played? I feel like Infinity Nikki was the last time I played an open world game. Haven't played a lot of them. You've always been incredibly productive. Have you noticed that productivity improving or declining over time? I would say pretty much staying the same. But it depends on what you mean by... Because like if productivity just means creating product, it's just a like natural thing to me. Like I don't think about productivity. Like, I don't think about trying to be productive or not be productive. I just do what I feel like doing, you know? So, it would probably... I feel like if you are in the mindset that you are trying to, like, make yourself do something, and therefore that is being productive, I'm no good at that. I could never have been any good at that. If it's just a matter of doing something because I feel like doing it, that's very easy, you know? Because oftentimes I can't get the fucking idea out of my head until I do the thing. Like, I'll just sit there and think about the thing over and over again until I do it. And sometimes I don't feel like I can, and so that could be kind of torturous, you know, until I just let it go, or never let it go. But if I can get something done and it's in my head, I do it. More so in terms of your own quantification of satisfaction with output you find meaningful. Yeah, I would say it's been pretty consistent. I guess I have an easier time letting go now. Like, historically, I had more projects that I agonized over my desire to do and not being able to do it. Like, I used to have more things that I would get the idea, and then I'd be working on other stuff in the meantime because I can do it. But I'd have things that, like, I obsessed over. One day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to get this project, you know, and then, like, never doing it and just feeling sad about it. Now I just kind of dismiss. Like, if I don't think I'm going to be able to do something, I'm like, nope, not even going to think about that, you know. Focus on what I can do, not on aspirational stuff. So... yeah, I would say I've lowered expectations for myself. That's a good way of putting it. I'm not trying to be as ambitious as I once was. I accepted defeat, and just do what I can. I've never heard of Hunter Call of the Wild. Last one you played was Elden Ring, and Elden Ring I only got like less than halfway into. Really loved it. But it was, again, just such a big time commitment. Like, I got to Renala, and I couldn't beat Renala, and at that point I'd been playing it for like maybe 2 weeks or something. I was like, I gotta do something else, you know? Am I enjoying Disco Elysium? Yes. Disco Elysium is quite good. It's a very weird experience. I've never really played a game like it before. I don't know that another game just like it really exists, but, you know, I've never even really played a text adventure game before. Like a point and click, I should say. I've never played a point and click adventure game for more than like 20 minutes in my whole life. So it's been a very new experience. But it's the first one I ever saw that sounded like it was for me. You know, the fact that it's about having voices in your head, and it's got all this like weird world building and political underpinnings and stuff, and alcoholism, you know. It's just more my speed than any of the other ones I've heard of. Ugh. Elden Ring is a massive time commitment. I clocked 100 hours and I beat that game and didn't do everything. Yeah. I think Bird did everything. And Bird had never played a FromSoft RPG, but I got him hype about Elden Ring, and then he Bird's the type where when he gets into something, he watches every video about it that comes to his attention. So, you know, he learned everything about the game and did all the endings, and you know, I don't know that he got like every item or anything like that, but he did most of what there is that anybody had talked about, you know. Esoteric Ebb is pretty disco-like. Actually, the fact that that game was coming out was a big part of what made me finally play Disco Elysium, and it's because so I listened to a podcast called Castle Super Beast, which is Wooly Versus and Pat Stares At, who both used to be part of Two Best Friends Play. I never watched Two Best Friends Play, haven't watched either of these two guys until like this year. And the only reason I got into it is because I got really into Versus Wolves, which is Wooly Versus and Super Eye Patch Wolf. And of course, I've been watching Super Eye Patch Wolf since he started. But getting into Versus Wolves and then following Wooly, he posts the clips from Castle Super Beast, and that got me into that show. And it just so happens that Pat Stares At is married to Peach Saliva, who used to be a Dick Show regular, and I've actually met her in person, so it feels weirdly interconnected to me that I'm like, oh wait, I kind of know who these people are. But on that show, they were talking about the Esoteric Ebb demo, like when that first came out, and they kept saying it's a Disco Elysium-like, and that we're now in this wave of games that are pulling from Disco Elysium. And so that was when I realized, oh, like, I've been putting off this game for years. Now I'm going to have to play it just so that I really understand the impact it's had. You know, like, if games are going to come out that reference this game, I'm going to need to understand this game to understand where gaming is going. And ordinarily, I would just watch a bunch of analysis videos and call it a day, but since I actually did want to play Disco Elysium, I decided to go for it. And it's also just one of the, like, probably top 5 most requested games for me to talk about. Like, whenever I say, hey guys, what do you think I should talk about on my channel? Like, that's one of the ones that always comes up. So I've got a vested interest in investigating almost anything that features dissociation as a major theme. You know, if a character has some kind of dissociative identity thing going on, I'm always more interested. So, you know, that was the main draw for me. Esoteric Ebb, from what I hear, seems a little bit more like fantasy Dungeons and Dragons-y. I don't know if that interests me as much, but I might give it a gander at some point. But the attractiveness of Disco Elysium to me is how fucking weird and, like, particular it is. And, you know, having its own universe with its own rules. And the incredibly extensive mind system, if you will. The fact that you have like 27 voices in your head is pretty funny. Although they're not like... So the interesting thing to me about that game is, like, I thought it was going to be more of a multiple personality situation like Killer 7. And it's not really that. It's more like each different part of your personality is its own kind of voice. And that is more relatable to me. Like, it's closer to my experience than... Like, I don't think I have full-on dissociative identity disorder. I think I have other specified dissociative disorder 1A, if you will. It's a field of research that is still... I'm not going to call it nascent, but, like, there's a lot going on in researching dissociation. There's a great website, actually. Let me find that website. I think if I just type dissociation, I'll probably get it. No. Hold on. Dissociative identity. God damn it. This is not coming up as quickly as I thought it would. Nope. Finding a bunch. Is this the one I want? Nope. Well, there seems to be a bunch of websites specifically to... You know what? I need to use Google and not fucking whatever the default search is on this computer. I'm on Bird's computer. Is it DID dash? Yes, I think this is the one I want. DID-research.org. Is this the one I wanted? I think it is. I mean, this looks right. This looks like a website that will give you lots of good information. But yeah, like, there's a lot of different types of dissociative disorders, and, like, exactly which one, you know, like, you have is a tough thing to determine, but... Killer 7? Is this Scissor 7, the Chinese animated series, or are you referring to something else? No, there's a video game called Killer 7 about you play as 7 different personalities of the same person, but they are presented as, like, completely different characters. Like, you're swapping between whole different bodies and everything. Granted, they don't really have, like, dialogue, so they're not, like, fleshed out characters per se, but it's an interesting game. It was the one that kind of put Suda 5-1 on the map. If you know No More Heroes and fucking, you know, Lollipop Chainsaw, Killer 7 was like the first big Suda 5-1 game. Kiki Ash. The kids don't even know about Killer 7 anymore. It is old now, isn't it? It's like gotta be 2003 or something like that. I would bet there's people here who are younger than that game. But, and still over 21 years old. Crazy. But yeah, Killer 7, I couldn't beat it. It's like hard, but also I suck. Like, I didn't understand the mechanics that well. But I think I got like halfway through and then watched someone else play it on YouTube. And when I watched them play, I was like, oh, that's how you're supposed to play this game. No wonder I suck at this. But yeah, it's very fucking weird. Like, compared to the other Suda 5-1 games that are better known, none of them are as weird as Killer 7. It's the one that the most actually feels like a Takashi Miike film. Like, I know Takashi Miike is a big influence on Suda, but Killer 7 actually feels like Takashi Miike. I should say, old Takashi. Like, if you know Takashi Miike for, like, Phoenix Wright, then probably not what I'm talking about. But if you know him for, like, Ichi the Killer or fucking Gozu or something, Killer 7 is along those lines. It's a weird fucking game. To be fair with Killer 7, at least half the characters have awful weapons. Yeah, well, yeah. It's a very weird game. Like, just the gameplay is not like any other game. Like, it is a very different system. It doesn't play like any other Grasshopper Manufacture game, like, or any other shooter game. It's like semi on rails almost, like, or your movement is like on rails. It's strange. I would say it's worth watching someone play, whether you played it yourself or not. Just, like, watch a full playthrough. July 2005. Okay, it's not as old as I thought. I know it was, like, originally on GameCube and then ported to PS2, like, a little bit later or something like that. But, yeah, it's like a GameCube PS2 game. The devs made a Blood Plus game with similar graphics to Killer 7. It's pretty as fuck. Yeah, they also did the Samurai Champloo game on the PS2. And the Samurai Champloo game, like, plays the exact same as how all of their games would play from that point forward. I'm sure Blood Plus plays the same way. Like, most of their games are, like, the simplest hack and slash gameplay possible, but with a, like, really interesting aesthetic coat of paint on it. Ever since somebody commented "The Town Inside You," that song's been stuck in my head. The town inside you and everybody's voice. There's a PC port in 2018. I did not know about that. I think I played it before that. Actually, did I do a blog on that game? I feel like I would have covered that during my blogging era. Yeah, here we go. Let's read this post I wrote about it in 2012. January 5th, 2012. Killer 7 is awesome, but seriously, fuck this game. Funnily enough, it references another thing I was talking about. If you couldn't tell when I gave up on the final boss in Persona 2 and watched the ending on YouTube, I'm not a completionist. I played 9 hours of Killer 7, at my play speed a little less than 40% of the game, before giving up to watch someone else play it. Thankfully, every fucking game in the universe has a set of playthrough videos these days. These days. 2012. A good analogy for my experience with Killer 7 is my experience with some of Takashi Miike's films, specifically the likes of Dead or Alive. I love the moments of batshit violent intensity, and over-the-top holy fuck. This is how I used to write. But it always seems to punctuate long stretches of boring who gives a shit. In Killer 7's case, the boring who gives a shit is the gameplay. Some will love the mechanics of this game and be totally great at it. The guy whose playthrough I watched made me look like a gigantic chump, and he claims to not be good at it and hadn't played it in 3 years. If he watched me play, I'm sure he'd reassess his skills. I fucking suck at this game, but more notably, the way that I could make things easier on myself would be to grind and use the leveling system to my advantage, except that I hate the combat system and already have to fight more battles than I want to, so the thought of fighting even more just makes me shudder. Yahtzee Crowshaw's write-up on this game says all that needs to be said about why the game is so compelling, as well as everything that's wrong with it and why it's not for everyone. I'm only confirming here that even among people who find the game's story and style completely fucking awesome, indeed it isn't. I find it entirely too frustrating and cheap, though it may only be as cheap as I am unprepared. Yahtzee recently came up with a system for judging games based on the categories of challenge, context, and gratification. Killer 7, despite the plot only providing a bare minimum of real context for what's going on, is very compelling in that aspect, having driven me to play it for 9 hours solely through my desire to watch it unfold. But I find playing it completely ungratifying, and the challenge fluctuates too much and is too dependent on things like grinding to interest me. As for the story, people love saying things like if David Lynch snorted Quentin Tarantino's skull off of a GameCube, you'd get this game. But I think quite simply, this is the game version of a particularly batshit Takashi Miike film. I felt similarly about Suda51's No More Heroes, which actually name-dropped Takashi Miike in-game, though Killer 7 would be like a Visitor Q or Gozu to No More Heroes' Happiness of the Kategories. Obviously, Suda51 has plenty of other influences, though, as evidenced in his love of making references. My favorite overt reference in this game is its use of the Smiths song titles for a series of notes regarding the Smiths. Killer 7 sells on a great dialogue. I didn't even remember that. I did not remember that it had a bunch of the Smiths references in it. Killer 7 sells on great dialogue, which is where the Tarantino comparisons are validated, and awesome things happening regardless of why. One of my favorite scenes, while not a champion of the game's dialogue, is one early in the game where a bunch of politicians are playing mahjong and bad-mouthing each other until they all draw guns into each other's faces at once and everyone gratuitously dies. This kind of shit just happens in this game, and I see no reason to question it. Of importance to how well the scenes work is the game's plethora of excellent voice acting. Most of the actors are common names in the video game and Western animation industry, but all of them are bringing their A-game here, no doubt because it's so much fun. My favorite performance is the smooth yet gravelly voice of Dwight Schultz playing Harmon Smith. He's one of the few actors whose voices I've heard in kids' shows a lot. He plays Mung from Chowder, Greg Eagles, who plays Garcia and also plays Grim from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and so the profanity-laden dialogue becomes even more fun. As soon as I found out that Kaede was played by Tara Strong, I couldn't unhear Raven from Teen Titans saying, "Shit, fuck it." She uses almost the same voice for both characters. Stretch her voice a little and you get to hear insane murderous rambling from the voice of Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, or even Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls if you want to go older. Tara Strong is in fucking everything. Anyway, watch the rest of the game on YouTube was fine with me, though I think it's important that I played enough to really know what the game was all about, since it's nothing if not interesting, even if that interest wore thin with the repetitive levels. I recommend that everyone at least tries it out and see what direction their interest, or lack thereof, takes them. There you go. That's a review I wrote in 2012. Devo37364 with $2 says, what is your favorite flower? Probably hydrangeas. Because they're like these big clusters. I'm like pulling up pictures on my computer, forgetting that you guys are not looking at my computer screen. Hold on. Let me really quick, can I make that happen? Display capture on, reduce the size of my window. There we go. Check that out. Look at those guys. Yeah, I like that they're like a bush with big ass fucking bulb flowers on them. Oh no, not Amazon. Yeah, that's probably the only answer I'm going to think of off the top of my head. I'm not like I'm not that versed in flowers, so I don't know a terribly large number of them. But I always thought these were cool, especially when they show up in anime. I was always like, what the fuck are those? Like, I hadn't seen one in person until more recently. So when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, okay, those things are pretty freaking cool. They also come in like a ton of colors. Ghost of Yote has a few references to Japanese directors, including Miike. That is fascinating, especially because the game is set so far in the past. I mean, I'm guessing it references Miike's like period dramas. Is that game good? I need to know, because when it came out, I was like really excited at the prospect of getting to play it one day, because I thought it was going to come to PC. Apparently it's not. But I was like, oh man, a game set in ancient Japan where you get to play as a girl? That sounds like it was made just for me. But then Bird started playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, and if you haven't seen, he pretty much streamed most of the game. He's beat it at this point and pretty much moved on. But he was streaming it on Bird Friends Play, both on Twitch and on YouTube. And in that game, you also play as a girl in ancient Japan, but it's fucking gorgeous. It's like the most gorgeous video game I've ever fucking seen. Assassin's Creed Shadows looks so ridiculously good. And so I thought, like, well, isn't the Ghost of whatever series also supposed to be, like, crazy gorgeous? But I watched a couple streams of it, and it just looked nowhere near as pretty or as interesting as Assassin's Creed Shadows. But having said all of that, a couple of times when Bird went to the bathroom, he left me with the game. And as soon as I realized there is no jump button in Assassin's Creed Shadows, I lost all interest in playing it. You cannot simply just standing jump. Like, you can run at something and jump and climb it, but you cannot just jump. And I was like, no, I cannot play a fucking video game where you control a character running around and you can't fucking jump. Can you jump in Ghost of Yotei? That will also be important. I mean, I guess I made it through the Souls games before they had a jump button, but after Sekiro and Elden Ring, it's like, it's hard to go back to not having a jump. And I have played Zelda even when there wasn't a jump button, but it's not my favorite thing about those games. You know, Ocarina of Time doesn't really inspire you to jump anyways. You know, it doesn't really make you think, oh, I need to jump around. But I guess in Dark Souls you can't technically jump because you can do the lunge jump, and you can do that anywhere. You don't have to be, it's not contextual. But it does suck ass. You can jump. Okay, that might be enough to convince me to play Ghost of Yotei. Just the fact that you can jump. The OG Assassin's Creed games did have manual jumping. Why would they take it out? Why would they do that? Alf Rules, what is your favorite solo? Do you mean guitar solo? Probably the final cut by Coheed and Cambria. You can also kick someone off a cliff in both Ghost games, which is hilarious to watch. That does sound like a good time. Yeah, I was just mostly stunned by how much... I don't know that it's so much better looking, because I haven't looked at Yotei on an actual... Like, I've only seen it through streams, which naturally aren't going to look as good as... You know, Bird's got the high-end computer and monitor, so everything looks fucking amazing on this thing. But Assassin's Creed Shadows is, like, the prettiest video game I've ever looked at. And it made me feel like I was actually experiencing, you know, 1498 or whatever Japan. Late 15th century Japan. I feel like I've been there after playing that game. Or watching that game, I should say. Trixie should play Frogger. It's all jump. You don't really jump in... I mean, I guess in Frogger 3D. In OG Frogger, like, sure, the frog is jumping, but you're really just moving up the screen, you know? Yes, or like trumpet solo or any other instrument. I don't know. Not something I think about a lot these days, but probably the guitar solo from the end of the final cut by Coheed and Cambria. That whole entire guitar solo I could just like play back in my head, and it's all right there. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to talk about while we're on this Talky stream. If anybody has a request of something I should talk about, hit me now, or I'm going to start singing the Mars Volta before my voice totally gives out. Wait, how did I miss the super chat about a Gardevoir fetish? Wait, what were you talking? Hold on. Oh, you were talking about Lily Orchard's Gardevoir fetish. Who doesn't have a Gardevoir fetish, though? Gardevoir is a sexy Pokemon. I think we can all agree on that. I don't think there's a lot of people who would disagree about that. Okay, yeah, I scrolled back up. I think that's the only one I missed. Talk about Toku. I've watched so little Toku. It's really a shame because I do like it, like, innately. I think it's cool. But aside from growing up with Power Rangers as a little kid, like, I really liked Mechanical Violator Hokkaider. Great fucking movie. I like what little I've seen of Ultraman Gaia. I watched like 5 or 6 episodes of that and thought it was cool. I remember really enjoying what I watched of Samurai Sentai Shinkenger, which was like 20 episodes back when that was actually airing. What other toku have I watched? Like Japanese special effects toku. Obviously Godzilla. I mean, Shin Gojira is one of my favorite movies. But yeah, I've never deep dove on toku. It's one of those things that's always been kind of sitting right next to me, as like people around me are into it, but I've never gotten into it in that kind of deep way. Favorite new wave band? What counts? Let's look up a list of new wave bands. Okay, do I like any of these bands? I like some The Cure. I liked the, if they count, they're in the list here I'm looking at. Is the B-52s new wave? I would think they were before new wave, but they're in this list. The Killers? That's not new wave. Alright, hold on. I need a better list. Let's see here. Yeah, I guess the B-52s is considered new wave. I mean, they're pretty good. I've never really gotten that into them. I don't know that there's a new wave band that I really like. I think there's a bunch that I think are good, or like have heard songs I liked. What's the name of that one fucking The Cure album I like? I almost want to say it's called Dissociation. It's something like that. The one that starts with a D, it means something like fucking dissolving or something like that. I don't remember the fucking name of it. I'm looking at this big list. I've got Rock Lobster stuck in my fucking head now. Bird is like a huge fan of the B-52s, particularly their first album. Like he listens to the early B-52s all the time. Disintegration, thank you. That is the one. Disintegration by The Cure, very good album. Haven't listened to it in a few years, but I remember getting pretty into it around when I started transition. It was just really dissociative right before starting. Yeah, I don't know. Looking at the list of new wave bands, I mean, again, there's bands where like they have some good songs. This list includes like Franz Ferdinand and fucking The Killers, which I'm like, okay, I guess if you're considering that new wave, I liked an album by, I liked the first. The Smiths is listed here. If they count, then that would probably be my choice because I like a significant number of Smiths songs. Roxy Music is listed in here, but I only like a couple of their songs really from the Brian Eno era. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not very into new wave. Talk about shitty games that a transsexual doing a 2009 style review show would review. Yeah, if any of y'all don't know Angry Tranny Gamer, that's Kiki Ash in chat here, which is a throwback, like, I wouldn't say it's like the Angry Video Game Nerd as much as it is like all of the channels that were inspired by the Angry Video Game Nerd back in the day. But it's like a, how would I describe it? Like a game review show that is more about the sketch comedy, like over the top personality aspect but with the unique slant of being extremely trans. It's very fun. Let's see. What games? Let's type in HG 101 Kusoge and see what we find. Okay, I got a big list of Kusoge here. If any of you haven't heard of HG 101, Hardcore Gaming 101, that website is like the absolute crack cocaine of video game knowledge. Like, basically any game ever has a rundown on this website. And they do like a special series on Kusoge. Oh, Driver 3 or Drive 3er? Driv 3er? This seems like an angry, like a 2009 angry tranny gamer game. I clicked on it. I clicked on the name in the list of Kusoge, and it just took me to an image of the Driver 3 disc on a table with a Sam's Choice Cola sitting on it, and it just says Coaster, and the E is a 3. But yeah, no, for real, if you want to learn everything about video game history, go to HG 101. They, like, you can go to, like, say, a Fire Emblem article, and it'll be like, okay, so we at some point wrote an article about every Fire Emblem game, comparing all of the versions, describing what's in them, and, like, here's the whole history of the franchise. And they have that for every fucking franchise. So it's the most comprehensive source of gaming knowledge out there. And I've been, every once in a while, I just remember this website exists, and I just come and binge a bunch of shit. Particularly if I want to learn about some big-ass franchise. You know, if I'm trying to learn about fucking the East games or something, I'll come here and just read about all the East games. Which is why I know so many more video games than I do have actually played them. If I get a PS2, I'll review Driver for you. Damn, you don't have a PS2? Okay, hold on. Let's try Wii. Let's see if they have a Wii section on here. I know you have a Wii. Let's see. Shitty Wii games. 20 worst Nintendo Wii games. Billy the Wizard? Rocket Broomstick Racing? That, I mean, just looking at the cover of it looks like something that belongs on your channel. Billy the Wizard Rocket Broomstick Racing. Ninja Bread Man. He's a gingerbread man who's a ninja. We got Eminem's Kart Racing. The Smurfs Dance Party. I'm just reading an article of the worst Nintendo Wii games. Action Girls Racing with a Z. And they all kind of look like... Actually, all 4 girls are in like a different art style. All 5 girls are in a different art style from each other. That's a fucking trip. Alvin and the Chipmunks, that's kind of obvious. Anubis 2. Calvin Tucker's Redneck Jamboree. 12 redneck-inspired events. Pimp My Ride. Cruisin'. Cruise apostrophe N. No E. Just cruisin'. Jumper Griffin's Story. Holy crap. Wow, the Wii had some real fucking schlock on it. Let's see. The Amazing 10 Worst Wii Games Ever. Alright. Balls of Fury had a video game? Okay. Jesus Christ. Yeah, any of that. Haruko-ji-san said Billy the Wizard is a dog ass. How do you even know about this game? I've never heard of it. Do you think vlogs are dead or just changed? I feel like I mostly watch vlogs. Like a vast majority of what I watch is just like a person talking into a camera about a thing. So I would say vlogs are far from dead. It's also most of what I do at this point. Let's see. Who are some vloggers that I watch? I watch Professor Sky all the time. He does record reviews in the form of just one-take vlogs. He literally doesn't know how to edit, so he makes it. He has to do the whole thing in one go. And his videos are like 50 minutes long a lot of the time. And it's just he's a professor, so he's schooled in the art of ramble, but It's pretty funny watching him try to not fuck up while vlogging. A lot of what I watch is podcast clip type stuff, like the aforementioned Castle Super Beast. Baka Raptor put out a vlog today about the worst part of the Chainsaw Man Reze arc movie that I highly agreed with, even though I had forgotten about that part of the movie. With some other vlogs. I feel like as soon as there's any real editing or scripting, it ceases to be a vlog. So I'm not including anything like that. I watch Lil Bill's Barbershop. Even though usually I'm not that interested, it's just like a video is there. Toure is my favorite vlogger, I would say, right now. Toure is probably my favorite channel this year. Fucking Gigadonk. She be making vlogs. Vlog Brothers. Funnily enough, I never watched Vlog Brothers until this year. Like, I knew about them the whole time, but I just thought these guys were fucking dorks, and so I never really checked them out. And then at some point I realized I'm a fucking dork, and now I watch the Vlog Brothers and all the Hank Green vlogs. You know, Vic and Hope just put out a new Poor Boy Eats, my brother Vic. And FD Signifier, he does some vlogs sometimes, you know. So yeah, I watch a lot of vlogs. This is just me scrolling through like the last 2 days on my subscriptions. I also think I'm let me know if this is you too, but I feel like I'm the only person who primarily watches my subscriptions on YouTube. Like, when I go to YouTube, I go to the subscriptions tab and I watch not all of the new content, but I watch whatever's new that I'm interested in from the channels I am subscribed to. And then if I am out of stuff from my subscriptions, then I will go to the home tab and try to find something new to watch. Rarely can I find anything on the home tab, but whenever I talk to other people, they mostly just kind of go to YouTube and just watch whatever it serves them. And I'm like, well, this is why having subs is meaningless, because if your video doesn't get pushed to the home tab of the people who are subscribed to you, they're not going to see it. But I'm much more of I'm a creator focused viewer where I don't really care what they're talking about. I care about who they are. So, you know, if I like the person, I will literally watch them talk about anything. I'm not at all interested in the subject matter as the reason for why I'm watching it. The Company Man, I guess I would consider a vlogger. He's my favorite. Other than Torre, who is his favorite. Read My Soul. I watch a lot of hip-hop vloggers. Keke, Kexke. But yeah, most of what I watch, I would put in the category of vlogs. David Cho's videos are very edited, but they are fundamentally vlogs. I highly recommend David Cho for if you just need creative inspiration. His videos are very good for that. David Choe is his last name. Strange Weather said, I cannot stand vlogs outside of Trixie's anymore. I feel too old and most people are trying to talk to 20-somethings or teenagers. That's not how it is in the vloggers that I've been naming. Most of the vloggers that I follow are old and they're talking to people my age who are young to them. I have a hard time listening to people who aren't older than me. If someone is my age, then I feel like I'm interested, but I'm not as likely to take what they say to heart as if it's somebody who is a bit older. Toure is probably pushing 60, and he's my favorite vlogger right now. And by no means are his videos made for anybody. I mean, I wouldn't say they're not accessible to young people, but they're definitely not for young people. But again, most of what I watch is talking about hip-hop culture, simply because there's a lot of good channels about it. There's not a lot of good anime vloggers or good gaming vloggers that I know of, which is kind of weird when I think about it. I wonder what it is about the vlogging format that I guess typically if you're going to talk about video games, you'll just put it over game footage because it's easy to get away with. Uh, but it's interesting that there's not, like, people who just get on camera and talk about games very often. I end up spending a lot of time on YouTube's homepage, and it's pretty miserable. Yeah, YouTube's okay. So what I'll do sometimes is, because I have a ton of channels, right? And not all of my channels really have a developed algorithm. So for instance, I have one that's just called Beatrice Deracine. It's just like the root channel for the Trixie Takes the Square channel, right? And so recently, as in 2 days ago, I was like, let's see what happens if I go to a channel that has no algorithm and see what happens to my homepage. And like when you have no algorithm, and you can do this by just deleting your whole watch history, you will wipe the whole algorithm from your channel. So when you do that, if you go to the homepage, it says search something to get started. It literally won't even recommend you anything until you have shown some kind of interest. I did not search something to get started. I went to the shorts tab and I just scrolled through shorts until at some point I came upon a short where it was a beaver eating cabbage. And as you may know, I am a cabbage shill. I'm trying to get everybody to eat cabbage. So I was very excited about watching this beaver eat cabbage. So I hit like on that short and continued scrolling, going through shorts. When I went to my homepage, the entire page was short videos of animals doing cute stuff, mostly beavers. It was like half beaver, half other animal, but it was only short, cute animal videos, right? So then I went back into the shorts, kept scrolling, kept watching. At some point, I hit like on a video of somebody using like a weird little synthesizer. I go to the home page. It is now half cute animal videos, half of which are beaver, and half synthesizer videos, particularly weird, off-kilter synthesizers and stuff. And then I went back into shorts, and at some point I think I liked a Sean Groves short. I'm a huge Sean Groves fan. He's like my favorite shorts creator on YouTube. And so now there's food in my tab. So like right now I'm looking at the home tab on this channel, and it is all either food videos, animal videos, or music production videos, but all within a certain particular aesthetic. Like it's not just music production videos, it's all like doing something weird with a weird instrument, you know. And the animal videos are all like, you know, specific types of cute animal or whatever. And so yeah, it's like the algorithm is so particular. It literally tries to give you exactly what you've already told it you like and nothing else. So like you can curate it very easily to give you like only a specific type of thing, but that's the opposite of what I want it to do. Like what I want it to do is to show me new things that I can then find out if I like or not. And it won't do that. It will latch on to what you like and only give you that from now on, which just to me seems completely backwards. It's like, how am I supposed to find new things? Like, that's not the goal. The goal is, oh, we think we know who you are. Let's just keep you in that box forever. Kiki said, not to shill Trixie, but would you consider what I do on my second channel where I point the camcorder at the CRT and talk about the game as gaming vlogs? Maybe. I don't know if I'm subbed to your second channel. I'll have to check that out. Hold on. Let's go over. Kiki Ash. How do I get to it? I see your NeoCities, your Patreon. Oh, Kiki's trash. Yeah, I don't know if I'm. Well, let me go to my actual channel and not the algorithmic. Yeah, I'm not subscribed to this yet. The newest video is called UN Owen was shitty, so I definitely have to watch that. As a Toho fan account. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing vlogs and gaming vlogs I would definitely say Crashing Out over Crash. Crashing Out over Crash 2 is the only experience you can have with Crash 2. That game is fucking nightmare. I hate the YouTube's hype feature. I mostly see a lot of right-wing BS I've never shown interest in, and YouTube search function is ass. I have not had that experience. I think because I watch so much YouTube, it is pretty locked in on what it thinks I'm going to like. And it mostly recommends me... Like, right now, in my home tab is a lot of Toho, a lot of Drake, and then it actually recommends me lots of leftist shit I don't care about. like pretty much any lefty channel is gonna be in my shit. A lot of hip hop. Wife sold the Yuri. There's like an old dude in front of a Madoka Magica poster, and the title and thumbnail says "Wife sold the Yuri," and he's going over to a. I might have to actually watch that later. That sounds hilarious. How dare she do that to him? Imagine if your wife just sold all your Yuri. If you had like a whole Yuri fucking shelving unit and you just come home and it's gone. I don't know how serious that is, but that was the plot of that video, seemingly. Yeah, I got a lot of furry stuff in here. A lot of odd music. Like weird Japanese music and shit. Here, let me just actually screen share y'all. Let me show you what I'm seeing here. This is my algorithm. So I always have some kind of RPG stuff, weird Japanese music, some anime crap, more music, Ginger, which is a band I actually am subscribed to. Kiki's Trash because I just subscribed to it. Final Fantasy VI music. This looks like some kind of Korean rap, if I had to guess. Chirno, Boogie Pop, because I listened to the Boogie Pop and the Yuki Kajiura music inspired by Boogie Pop and Others CD like last night. I always get a bunch of trailers for indie games with cool aesthetics. Weird little animations, which these I will usually actually click on. If something looks like a cool animation, I'm very likely to check that out. This looks neat. But yeah, this is generally my home tab experience, which is not bad. Like, it's not that these aren't videos I think look good. It's just that I'm not very likely to click on most of them because I tend to mostly just watch, like, Talky videos, you know? Like, mostly just something I can have on in the background while I think about something else or do something else. So, you know, I tend to be more so like, okay, here's a talking head I recognize and am a fan of, so I'm just going to listen to them talk about whatever they happen to be talking about while I do other shit. But yeah, I would say this is a pretty decent algorithm pull page I'm looking at right here. Nothing on here makes me upset. Nothing here is like, oh God, why would they recommend me this? You know, this all seems fine. Clickable, but not necessarily something I'm going to click, if that makes sense. What was at the top? So I started from like the middle. Whams. Yeah, here's the wife sold the Yuri. Look, he finds his Yuri collection devastated. He can't find his Yuri anywhere. He's digging through his closet looking for the Yuri. Where'd the Yuri go? No idea what kind of video that is. Anywho, let's take this back off screen. That was a quick exploration of my algorithm. As a proud Yuri enjoyer, I would be in prison if we sold my Yuri. Yeah. Don't take this the wrong way when I say that Tony Zared is not your strain of autism. That is probably true. I don't know that I have autism. I've been in doubts about this lately. I feel like I memed about having autism for a long time, but that was just because I didn't know about dissociation. Like, I had not heard of that term for a long time, and then once I found out about it, I was like, oh no, that one's me. Because I know a lot of people with autism, and I'm not that similar to them. Yeah, I know you just mean it in like the internet colloquial sense of like everything is a type of autism, but my type of autism is dissociation. um, because like, I don't know, the traits that I associate the most with autism, I don't see that much in myself. But the traits that are associated with dissociation, I very much see in myself. And even then, I'm not as dissociative as some people I know. You know, I know people who are like swimming through life. You know, like they're in a thick vat of tar and they're trying to swim through it to move. I'm not quite at that level. I've been there. I have spells of it. But I'm not, you know, I'm not quite frozen in place most of the time. All my siblings have some form of autism, so it's definitely genetic for me. Yeah, like everyone in my family is definitely neurodivergent, but I don't think any of us would be specifically diagnosable with autism. Definitely ADHD. I would say everyone in my family has ADHD, for sure. Not as intensely as Bird does. Bird has the most intense ADHD I've ever seen in a human. Other than like shorts of people with like the worst ADHD in the world. But his is close. I see echoes of it in him, but I put myself more on the ADHD dissociation spectrum than the autism spectrum. Trixie, you've been thinking for over 10 years. Is there anything more? I've been thinking for I've been thinking for 30 years. I'm turning 35 this year. I've been thinking for 30 years. It doesn't stop. There's no off switch. I don't know how to not be thinking. It's most of what I do. I mean, granted, right now I've got a Coltar of the Deeper song stuck in my head, so it's not so much words in my brain right now as much as what is that song? I think it's like track 2 on No Thank You. Let me see. Nope, not Dear Future. Definitely not that. Where's the... Is it Good Morning? No. This sounds right. Star Love by Coltar of the Deepers is stuck in my head right now. But it's simple, you just forget. I don't know how to do that. I have autism and ADHD. That's called ADHD. No, it's not, but people say that. It's a nice abbreviation. I don't believe there's people out there who don't think at all, just emptiness, what the fuck. They definitely do. I mean, I actually don't think most people think. Like, thinking is more of a rare, and not to say that they don't think at all, but that they mostly don't think. Like, most people are most of the time just reacting. Like, thing happens, they react to thing, they continue on. Having, like, an actual voice in your brain is neurodivergent. Fucking Hank Green made a video recently about how he's like, I don't think, like, in words, I just have thoughts sometimes, you know? Like, a thought enters my brain, and it's all there, and it's not, like, words, it's just, like, a thought. And that's how my mom described it, too. My mom was like, yeah, I don't have, like, words in my brain. I have images. I have sounds. I don't have, like, a dialogue in my brain. Hey, but for real, Trixie, I've been watching your stuff for 10 plus years. Always love coming back. Good to know. Good to hear it. I think that I really think at this point there's not a lot of new people to my content. It's mostly people who've been around for a really long time. I don't really know what I would do to draw new people in, and I'm not really worried about it at this point. I just do what I do, and some people remember I exist sometimes. I find myself forgetting to think a lot of the time. You don't need to think. It's not like a good thing. Thinking is not an innately good trait. In fact, much of the time, thinking is more hesitant than just doing shit, you know? Z-Cypher said, I only experienced thinking without words on weed. It was weird as fuck. That happened to my brother Victor, and it freaked him the fuck out. Like, he was convinced he was dying. That's why Victor doesn't smoke. Because a couple of times he's smoked, he'll, like, go a couple seconds without thinking, and he'll be like, the world ended. Like, what just happened? I'm dead. I'm dying. I'm dying. Like, he would not stop saying he was dying. I'm autistic and ADHD, but I refuse to call myself ADHD. Maybe that's just an autistic thing, too. Hey, you know, you get to choose your own labels. Or you should be able to choose your own labels. Obviously, people are always going to try to put you in a box, but you got to pick your own box. Build your own box cart. One of the comments in your video stuck out to me. Most of thinking is just remembering a previous state of consciousness. Actively creating a new pattern of thought takes effort. Yeah, I guess. Kinda. I don't know if it takes effort as much as it takes an event. You know, like, stuff can change your mind and you had nothing to do with it. You know, like, it just happens to you and then now you're thinking different. Thinking without words is still thinking. Now, that I agree with. I still think there's people who don't even think at all, like, until they have to. Like, thinking is a reaction. And I think the reason that I think so much is that I have a crippling fear of abandonment. And I don't just mean that as in, like, being abandoned, but of abandon, like a state of abandon. I feel like I need constant control, and thinking is a form of feeling control. And the reason for that is that I really think a lot of the way my mind works comes down to when I was a kid. By the time I was 3 years old, I had lived in 7 different houses. And everything I've learned about child psychology now is that you're really not supposed to move a kid around, especially in those early years. Like, because a child is developing their sense of what the world is at that point, and if that keeps changing, then they just don't ever develop a sense of what things are, you know? And so I learned a lot in the educational sense as a kid of, like, I knew a lot of words from an early point. I knew a lot of concepts, but I didn't have a sense of what is reality, you know, like, what is outside the door, what is beyond my mom, what is out there. Like, I just had no clue. And it's because it kept shifting all the time. So I never developed this sense of, like, here's a consistent sense of reality. And so I think I created a consistent sense of reality through thought, you know, through continuing to reassess the past. And, like, as a kid, a lot of my thinking was just going back over my experiences, you know, like, trying to hold on to a sense of identity through what I knew about myself. I know that when I was, like, 4 or 5, when I started developing, you know, lasting memories, a lot of those memories were of my mom, like, showing me my baby book and explaining to me what the first years of my life were. And then I would replay those thoughts in my head all the time, like, okay, this is who you are. You know, you were a baby that weighed 8 pounds and 8 ounces, and you were born on August 8th. So you are the number 8. You have blue eyes, so you are the color blue, you know, and, like, thinking about that stuff over and over again to reinforce a sense of identity. And so for most of my life, I've been thinking about most of my life and tried to bring it all back and create. And that's why I talk about the same story so much in my videos. Like, I keep going back through my past because it's the only way that I feel like I'm a consistent person, because nothing about the environment around me is anything the fuck similar to, you know, where I was born or where I grew up. Like, so yeah, I think thinking is the only thing that keeps me feeling grounded and like a full person. Yes, I have listened to the Avalanches since I left you quite a few times. Frontier Psychiatrist is like one of my theme songs. It's 4:35. I will probably wrap up before too very long, because I don't want to be doing this at 5 o'clock. Do you play any new games or have a game where you always return to, like how some go back to LoL or Overwatch or something? Well, right now the games I'm going back to are shmups. I would probably say Dodonpachi Daiojo on my phone is the game that I have gone back to the most times out of any game. Let me show you what that is and what that's like, in case you don't know. Oh, I swear I can do this backwards. Alright, let's go. Let's see what we can do. Laser mode. Nope, I got hit. Thinking about doing this backwards is really fucking with my head. Why am I not firing? What the fuck? What happened? Why have I there we go. That was strange. Shit. Am I dead? Yep. Alright. That was me trying to play backwards on hard mode on stage 4, but yeah, Dodonpachi Daiojo on the phone is probably the game I've returned to the most. I started playing it like 4 years ago, and you know, I wouldn't say I've played it consistently, but I have definitely kept coming back to it. My favorite game this year is Cyrano Lifts a Boulder, and I did a full playthrough of that just like a week and a half ago. It's only like a 90-minute long game, and it fucking rules. Twinkle Star Sprites is great. I have that on my Switch. I think it's Twinkle Star Sprites, right? It's really fucking hard. And it plays like Touhou 9, which I previously said Touhou 9 is like the easiest Touhou. Twinkle Star Sprites is actually harder than Touhou 9. Yeah, this is the one. I first played Twinkle Star Sprites in the gaming room at Too Many Games, which is a convention in the greater Philadelphia area that a friend of mine, Tony from Hack the Movies, I want to say he works for I don't think he works for the convention anymore, but he's pretty much always there doing stuff. It's run by the AVGN team, and that's where I met AVGN and lots of other creators. But they have a big old game room, and they had a Twinkle Star Sprites cabinet, and I played it, and I thought it was the shit. So I bought it on my Switch. But it's really hard. Still got that Koltar the Deeper song stuck in my head. Please play Sex with Hitler already? I've never heard of that. Oh yeah, I was talking about Cyrano Lifts a Boulder, game of the year, absolute 10 out of 10. I will definitely play that game again. Also, there's a new game called Alabaster Dawn that came out like a week ago, and I bought it. I haven't played past the demo yet, but I'm really excited about it because it's from the same developers as Crosscode. It's their second game, and Crosscode is a masterpiece, and Alabaster Dawn seems like it could be a masterpiece as well. So I'm excited to play that. I don't think I've played Poppin' Twinbee. I know I've tried to play the original Twinbee and just found it too difficult, but I don't think I've tried Poppin'. It's on the Super Nintendo, so I could probably, just download it real easily and give it a shot. But I should give that a shot. Looking at screen caps, I'm like, oh, this looks really cute, and I don't think I've played this. Zero Ranger is a great meta shmup. I'll have to check that out. I highly recommend y'all, if you like shmups and you want to get more into them, the channel Samsonite STG that I mentioned earlier does videos about lots of games in the genre, but particularly the No Miss podcast, where he talks to other creators, because he's got a full Zero Ranger playthrough is why I thought of him when you said that. I think it's a full playthrough. At the very least, it's a video about Zero Ranger. The Rain Chaser demo, if you haven't played, Rain Chaser is a game still in development, but the demo for it is fucking gorgeous. It's got the art style looks like a combination of like Range Murata, like Last Exile art, and like Gunslinger Girl character design, and like very obviously Yoshitoshi Abe influence. Like the whole era of anime that I really am nostalgic for is what Rain Chaser pulls from, and I'm like, oh, this is the coolest fucking shit I've ever seen. It is hard as balls. I don't think I have not been able to beat the demo, but besides Samsonite STG, in episode 4 of his No Miss podcast, he interviewed a guy called Pan. The channel is literally at PAN -- and Pan makes really good videos about how to beat lots of different games. So he's got like how to beat Dodonpachi Daiojo, he's got how to beat Espegaluda, Ketsui, how to beat your first Toho, which is specifically about Imperishable Night. His latest one is about Pro Gear, which the artwork looks amazing on that, so I really want to try that out. But yeah, I'm like pretty new to branching out from just Toho and Dodonpachi. Like I'm trying to dip my toe into other games and figure out which one do I want to commit myself to. But I also heavily recommend the Dreamer games, like Dreamer and Cosmo Dreamer, especially Like Dreamer, which you can buy on the Switch and on Steam. And it's got goofy ass, very autistic artwork with gigantic titties on some characters, which is like a lot of the marketing around the game. But it plays like Toho, but with easier difficulties, and you don't have to beat the whole game at once. It's like level based. And yeah, I really like Dreamer. I've gotten to on Like Dreamer, so there's basic, that's just 3 difficulty modes, and I beat the whole game on the first 2 difficulty modes, and I'm on the last 2 levels on expert mode, and I just haven't been able to clear those last 2 levels, but I've given it a lot of fucking tries. They are significantly harder than the rest of the game. And then Cosmo Dreamer, which was the like precursor to Like Dreamer, is not quite as good, but it is still really good, and it's way harder. That one has 4 difficulty levels, but you have to beat the first 3 to unlock the 4th one. And I'm on like stage 5 on the second difficulty, stage 5 on the highest difficulty, stage 7 on the second difficulty. $5 to rant about Plunderphonics. I mean, it is. I feel like Plunderphonics is almost just what music is at this point. Like, because like when people refer to Plunderphonics, they're usually thinking of like Avalanches, where it's like music comprised entirely of audio from other sources. You know, like none of its original sounds that they're creating with instruments. It's all sample based. But like that was already hip hop. So like isn't hip hop just Plunderphonics also, you know, like I think Avalanches is more known for it because they pull from really obscure sources and like Also, the vocals are plundered. Like, but that's not even entirely true because by the time you get to their second album, they have a bunch of feature rappers and stuff. So like, um, but like Frontier Psychiatrist is the ultimate example of a song where every aspect of it is pulled from some kind of obscure source to create this brilliant pastiche. Was that the word I want? No. What is mural, I guess? Not mural. What is it called when it's a bunch of images that create one image together? Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like, so to me, plunderphonics and hip hop are not that distinguishable, honestly. And, obviously the whole vaporwave movement is like a whole, like, collage. Thank you, Z Cypher. Yeah, like plunderphonics is like making a collage out of a bunch of unique sources. Besides Avalanches, there's the band The Books. I highly recommend their album The Way Out. Great fucking plunderphonics record. I don't think The Books is all plundered elements. I think it's like a combination of weird samples and original music. But The Way Out is really good. And then, like, I don't know, like, I'm thinking, like, Paul's Boutique is basically a plunderphonics album that has the Beastie Boys rapping on it, right? Like, what is the difference between hip-hop and plunderphonics, truly? But yeah, it's basically just taking sounds and making new stuff out of it. I'm a big fan. I never understood plunderphonics as a genre. It's a technique. Yeah, that makes more sense, like, to consider it as a technique. Panda Bear too. I didn't realize Panda Bear. I guess I haven't really listened to his solo stuff, because I'm thinking like Animal Collective is not plunderphonic as far as I know. Pretty sure they're just playing with a bunch of weird synths and shit, but I've never looked into how they produce their music. But yeah, like I said, I feel like everything is. I mean, when you're making a song, you're really just using sonic lexemes. You're using words and phrases, but in a musical sense. In the same way that, like, if I write a sentence, none of the words in there were invented by me. I mean, one of them might be, but the concept that word represents was not invented by me. Like, I don't really believe in originality in the sense of, like, oh, I created something completely from my own mind. It's like, really, being an artist is rearranging elements. It's taking stuff that already exists and then putting it in a new shape. So to me, it's always all plundered. It's all just collage style. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to sing the song I would have sang at the start. Hopefully my voice isn't so fucked. I don't know why I always talk so fucking loud on these streams, but it really fucks up my voice. Just as he hit the ground, they lowered a toe that stuck in his neck to the gills. Ugh. Fragments of sobriquets riddle me this. 3 half-eaten corneas who hid the areole stalked the ground. Stalked the ground. You should have seen the curse that flew right by you. Page of concrete, stained walks crutched in hobbled sway. Auto da fe, a capillary hint of red. Only this manupod crescent in shape has escaped. The house half the way fell empty with teeth that split both his lips, marked these words. One day this chalk outline will circle this city. Was he robbed of the asphalt that cushioned his face? A room-colored charlatan hid in a safe stalked the ground. Stalked the ground. You should have seen the curse that flew right by you. Page of concrete, stain walks crutched in hobbled sway. Auto da fe, a capillary hint of red. Only this manupod crescent in shape has escaped. Pull the pins, save your grace. Mark these words on his grave. Pull the pins, save your grace. Mark these words on his grave. Pull the pins, save your grace. Mark these words on his grave. You should have seen the curse that flew right by you. Page of concrete, stain walks crutched in hobbled sway. Auto da fe, a capillary hint of red. Everyone knows the last toes are always the coldest to go. That's Televators by the Mars Volta. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out. And I'll see you on Whams tonight at 8 p.m. if you show up to Shade's channel. And then I'll see you again probably on Monday watching Krona play Twilight Princess on the Slime Dolls channel. And then again on Tuesday when I play Disco Elysium on this channel. And then if Bird ends up playing, probably streams on Wednesday, I'll be in the